Okay, so the last thing that I want to go over before we end this lecture, all right, is basically CAD files, all right, how we can work with them, um, how we can link them in, and basically how we can export them as well. All right, so what I'm basically going to do, all right, is if I go to level 1 here, all right, is I'm going to export, let's say this as a CAD file, okay? Obviously if you have a floor plan, it's going to look a little bit better, but in this case, I'm just going to use, what I have already in here to kind of, demonstrate to you guys. All right. So basically with a CAD file, all right, also known as, .dwgs, right? Sometimes you'll hear them referred to as DWG files. Right. You also have the ability to load in, a whole host of different kind of CAD files. So DWGs, DXFs, DGNs, things like that. All right. So there's a whole list of different files that you can actually link up to Revit. All right. SketchUp actually happens to be one of them, so you can directly link a SketchUp file to this. Okay. But essentially, if you wanted to export a CAD file, all right, whether it's a sheet, whether it's an exact view or anything like that, okay, is basically any of your views that you have here in your project browser, you can export as a CAD file, okay? Now, if we wanted to do that, if you go to the left here under the R symbol up in the top left, right, bring it down to where it says export, all right? And under export, you can see where you have CAD formats, let's say just DWG for purposes of this, all right? Now you can change it, export, all right, current view, sheet only, in session view / sheet only. All right, so you can change this around. All right, change which views are actually showing up. In this case, I'm just going to kind of keep it as current view. Okay, so floor plan level 1. We can say next. All right, it'll bring up where you want to export it to. If I just say desktop. All right, can add that there. Okay. All right, so you can navigate to where you want to place your file. All right, name it whatever you want to name it. All right, under here where it says naming, it says automatic. You can change it to automatic long, short, okay, or specify manual. Okay, so you can go ahead and name it if you want to. All right, file types. This is going to be important, all right, because you have AutoCAD 2013, 2010, and 2007. So if you're exporting CAD files, all right, for use where you're going to share it, let's say with a subcontractor, or you're going to export these CAD files to use, let's say in another program, all right, make sure you find out what version of CAD files that that other software takes. All right, so for instance, some fabrication softwares with subcontractors don't like the newest 2013 DWGs. All right, they like all the way back in 2007 DWGs. So we're going to make sure that we look at that and make sure that we're exporting the correct format, right? But just for purposes of what we're doing, we're going to keep it at 2013. Okay, and we'll go ahead and hit OK. It'll take a minute for that to go, and that'll export ourselves out a CAD file. Okay, and so that kind of exported that out now. All right, you can find that on your desktop, and you can use that in any of the other programs. Okay. Now let's say we wanted to load one in and link one, so we can use it here in our Revit file. Okay. If you go to your Insert tab, all right, as I mentioned before, that you have link and you have import. All right, and so there's going to be a difference between the two of them. All right, link. Okay, so if you link a CAD file or you link a Revit file or something like that, think of linking a file as a live kind of upload. All right, so if you link a CAD file, all right, and you're working with it here in Revit, and someone opens that original CAD file and changes something around with it, all right, and saves it, the next time you open up your Revit file, all right, that CAD file is going to update. All right, so that's kind of like a live link. So every time that CAD file updates and changes itself, all right, it's going to change in your Revit model for you as well. All right, so it's kind of a live link. So every time that changes, it changes in the Revit model as well. All right, import, what this does is it basically takes a snapshot of that file at that given time and it loads it in. All right, so if for some reason that CAD file changes, all right, in the original file format, it will not update in Revit. All right, it's kind of that one state at whatever time it was taken and it imported in. All right, and that's how it kind of sits there. right? So depending on how you want to use the CAD files and what you may be needing, all right, you may need to either link or import, okay? But those are basically the differences between the two, okay? But you can see here we have link CAD and we have import CAD, right? If I just link in this case, we'll click on link CAD, all right? It's going to bring us up a window, all right? So navigate to wherever it is you saved it. In my case, I did it on the desktop, so I'm going to select it here, all right? Under colors, you can select whether to invert the colors that are in your CAD file. You can preserve your CAD file, the colors, or just change them all to black and white. All right, I'm just going to do black and white for this case. All right, layers and levels. All right, you can see here that you can say you want Revit to import in all of the layers, right? Just the layers that are visible at the current moment that that CAD file was saved. Or if you click specify, right, which I will just so we can take a look at it, right, it'll open up a window after we hit OK and open on this, all right, and it'll actually let us choose which layers get imported in, okay? Positioning, right, this is going to be a little bit important to have, right? You can see auto, all right, so it's center to center, origin to origin, or shared coordinates, right? Whether or not you're using shared coordinates, probably not, but if for some reason you are, all right, you might want to do the shared coordinates there, but center to center and origin to origin, all right? So if you guys are familiar with CAD or even Revit here that we're using, right, you know that there's an origin to all of your drawings and your models, all right? So there's that original 000 point, okay? So that's the origin of your model, okay? The reason why it's important to know where that is, okay, is not only because it's good to know where that 000 point is, but if you're going to be dropping it in here or linking things together, okay, especially Revit models, right, or if you're bringing CAD files in and you're linking them directly on top of each other, all right, it's important to know where that is because if your origin point is at 000, and I'm sure some of you have seen, a CAD file you open up and someone's drawn way off to the corner somewhere, all right, so it's nowhere near the origin point. Okay, if you link this in here and click auto and select one of these, all right, so origin to origin example, all right, you're going to go, it's going to match up the 0 point of the CAD file with the 0 point of Revit, and it might have the actual drawing way out off in the distance, thousands of feet away from that 0 point. All right, you may never be able to actually see and look and find where that thing is. Okay, so I would recommend if you're linking in a CAD file, all right, is open that CAD file up first in whatever program it is, right? So AutoCAD, for example, and just take a look at where that origin point is in relation to the rest of the CAD file itself. All right, that way there's no surprises when you link this thing in, and it's way off to the side and you can't find where it is, okay? You can also choose to do manually, all right? So instead of doing auto, do manual by origin or base point or center, okay? In this case, I know where this is. I'm just going to do origin to origin, okay? Auto, place at, you can select whatever level you want it to be at, but in this case where we're in the floor plan level 1, it kind of restricts itself to level 1, okay? And we're going to go ahead and hit open. All right, and because I had that value selected there for to choose which layers got imported in, all right, it brings up the list of layers that are in that CAD file, okay, and then we can go through here and you can choose whatever layers you want to import in. All right, if there's some that you don't want to import in, you don't have to, okay. In this case, there's not a whole lot, so I'm just going to hit OK. All right, obviously, if you bring in a CAD file that has hundreds of layers, all right, it's going to slow down your computer and your model so much more than it would if you bring this one in where it has 5 or 6 different layers to it, right? So just kind of keep that in mind if you're going and importing in all of your layers, that the more layers it has, the more memory it's going to take up and the slower your model is going to run, okay? Now, in this case, you can't really see the CAD file here because it's this exact model basically dropped in on top of itself. So it's a little bit difficult to see the difference between it here. But if I go through here, okay. All right, so I have my CAD file. Okay. If I go and look at it in 3D, All right, you can kind of see it here in 3D view. All right, so again, it's hard to see in the plan view because I basically did a CAD file of exactly what I was looking at, and so it's sitting right on top of itself. All right, but if you look at it in 3D, all right, you can see that we have the CAD file that's linked in here. All right, now if you use the auto feature, all right, for the positioning of it, it'll go ahead and lock itself in place, so that way you can't accidentally drag this thing around. All right, but if you don't and you're placing this CAD file, all right, and going to be using it for any sort of the base of your plan, all right, make sure that you select your CAD plan and under the modify tab, all right, if you go, excuse me, and find the pin tool, right, or if you go and right click on it, okay, and excuse me, either in the override graphics view tab, right, we haven't gone through that yet, but basically find that pin tool, all right, so that way you can actually pin it in place, right. In this case, it happens to be right here under modify, right, or the tab keys for PN, all right. And basically what that does is it locks it into place so you can't accidentally drag this around, which obviously you're not going to want to if you're using it to trace and using it as a background to build your model off of. You don't want to accidentally be able to drag this thing around, right? You want to lock it in place. Okay, but that's kind of how you can import in a CAD file, all right? Now, once you have a CAD file in here, you can go and, if you're drawing something, let's say it's a wall, all right, you can go and you can actually snap to all of these lines that were in CAD, all right? Use those as a base when you're drawing things out, okay? So it's kind of nice to have. You can use it and kind of trace right along with it, okay? Um, when we go over creating presentation views and kind of go over all the view settings, I'll go into a little more detail here on how you can adjust your CAD files and actually change these around so you can see a little bit different stuff in it. Okay, but for now, that's just simply how you can either link or import in a CAD file as well as export a CAD file from any of your plan views here. All right. So that is kind of the last thing that I wanted to touch on for this week. All right, so again, make sure you go through and review, the stairs, the ramps, the railings, and then obviously the loading in of furniture and different objects like that. Okay, so make sure that you go through those, make sure that you understand them, and if you have any questions, please make sure you email me and let me know. Aside from that, hope everyone has a good week, and I will see you.